All right, hello everybody. I'm just Sgarlata from Beyond the Range, and of course, as always, we have Mr. Charlie Moore on the call, retired U.S. Marshal. Charlie, how are you today?
Jeff, how you doing, my friend? Thanks for having me on the call. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you're here with us as always. Hey, I posted a video just the other day about some, dry fire skills I was using, and I was using UTM weapons and stuff and doing it in my basement, and I made a couple mistakes, and I posted the video about the mistakes or what I considered mistakes for the drills I was working that day. All right, because again, depending on what you're training for, it might be done differently. But I did get a message from a viewer that kind of was respectfully asking why would I consider those mistakes because they didn't understand that. So I thought, hey, this would be a great opportunity for people to learn instead of just saying, hey, I did a mistake here. But let's go into the tactical side of why that is. So I have a short little video of the training I did. And again, it is in my basement. I'm using UTMs, which are basically like little paintballs that go into an actual firearm, and they just fire little paintballs out. But it's just going to be a short little video. I'll link the actual video, the full length of the video, in the description below. So if anybody wants to see that, they can watch the full length one as well. But it kind of goes into explaining what the drill is. I'll give you a preface on what I was doing. I have a new Glock 19. I was trying to just get some trigger time in, get used to trigger, things like that. So I had two targets downrange. I wanted to fire two shots on the left target, two shots on the right target. I wanted to move to concealment, which is behind my furnace. I wanted to do a reload. I wanted to angle out, two shots on the target. On that one would be the right one, and then two shots on the left. Go back to concealment, reload, and then I wanted to move, two shots on each target. Again, equaling four, but while I was moving. So let's watch the video, and it'll actually point out some of the mistakes again, not mistakes, but challenges I had during it. And then I want to kind of talk to you from there. So let me share this video, and we will go from there. All right, so let's play this now.
Okay.
So this is the first run I did, all right?
Okay.
Two shots on the left, two shots on the right, move to concealment. I put my back against the wall, which that's the question the person had is why is that considered bad? And we'll talk about that in a second.
Sure.
Then I came out with two shots on each, and now I'm moving, reloading, which it's not incorrect. It's just that's not what I wanted to do for the drill. And then my third issue was standing still while I was shooting. All right, so let's kind of break it down a little bit here. Charlie, let me go back just a little bit.
Okay.
So my first drill was just to shoot 4 shots from a standstill position. Let's see if I get it here. Right here, all right? Easy, we do that at the range all day long, no problem at all, all right? But then when I moved to concealment, and the question is, why am I moving to concealment? The answer is because it was just a drill I was working that day. There really wasn't a lot of thought to it. All right, so let me stop sharing for a second. So actually, let me go just a little bit farther. So I just didn't want to be exposed. I had to do a reload, so I wanted to get behind something, and I used my furnace kind of as just a temporary wall type thing. All right, so this is the first one I want to talk about. So, we always talk about, do you have to run the concealment when you're reloading? Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. I think the situation is going to be dictated, or what you need to do is going to be dictated by the situation. Sure. Meaning, depending on the circumstances, you may have to do different things. So we have to train for all different types of situations. It's just like if I'm in boxing, whenever somebody throws a jab, I may have to have a different counter. I have to throw that right cross, or if they're a southpaw. So, so me moving to concealment, I don't think was wrong or incorrect. It was just a drill that I was doing. I wanted to be behind something when I did my reload. But let's bring up the first question that person asked is, why is turning my back to the wall maybe not tactically the better thing to do? Charlie?
Yeah. Well, first, it was a great question. So obviously they're thinking. So that's, as we talk about in all our classes, mindset and your psyche preparation is certainly key. So I commend whoever your viewer was to recognize that, or at least ask about it. So my belief is if one person had that question, I'm sure others did too. One, as we've always talked about, is I think it's an emotional thing when we seek cover, concealment, barrier, barricade between a bad person or a subject a predator, if you will, is it feels natural to be up close to something, suck up to cover, if you want to use that term that we use quite often in law enforcement. One, maybe you practiced that way in the beginning or a while ago, that I'm just going to turn my back and turn and engage, quote unquote, paper targets that you were using in your basement. The reason tactically is now I've sacrificed my visual security or my visual target discrimination, if you will, of the subject that you were engaging. So we try to focus on, there's pros and cons. I'm going to sacrifice something for something else. I think getting up to your furnace there in this example was the best cover or concealment that you can get. The problem is you lose sight, as I just mentioned, of the subject. And there's no angle. If the subject does come around the corner, you won't recognize or see that person until they're right on top of you. So we have to give up something to get something. So in this example, we talk about the acronym, if you will, of TWE, or threat condition, weapon condition. And am I in the best environmental position I can be to re-engage if need to be, or to call 911 or be safe? Is first, can I access my threat condition if my back is to that concealment? And the answer is no, I can't see it. I'm more concerned, not that it's not a concern, with my reload. So we have to focus tactically on doing both. Can I see my subject, or the threat, if you will? Can I reload my weapon system that you were talking about while watching that subject and not getting used to? Sometimes at the range, we all do it, is we put our head down to do things. And we need to focus on, I don't have to see everything perfectly clear, but can I see, in this example, as I'm looking toward the camera, can I see my weapon? Can I do what I need to do? And can I also see the threat? And in order to do that, we have to be facing the threat. I have no issue, like you said, in your drill, seeking cover or concealment, barricade, whatever you want to call your furnace. But if we're talking tactics, I would love to see us focus on maintaining that acquisition of the visual security, if you will, of that threat, the reason that you had to engage and then seek cover. Something is trying to cause serious bodily injury or death to you or your family or whatever. So I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's something we need to consider based on what your goals were. And, your goals this time was getting to cover while you reloaded your weapon system. But also, I think we have to maintain that target acquisition while we make sure our weapon is up and functioning. So great question, whoever that was.
And then you brought up a question. It's like, well, why did I do that? And I really don't know. The thing I could think about is I was concerned. You said it earlier. I was concerned about doing the reload. I'm on a concrete floor. I really didn't want to drop my brand new mags on the concrete floor, so I have padding underneath me. So I think I wanted to get that mag out and kind of guide it to the padding,
Sure.
so it wouldn't damage the mags. And to be honest, I haven't done training for myself going behind cover concealment a lot recently. So I think I just went back to an old habit. And as soon as I watched that video, it stuck out to me like that. For me, that's incorrect. Now, you get behind that cover concealment, I may lose a little bit of a sight of the threat a little bit, but at least I'm not back exposed. And if you watch the video, there's a long time that takes me from reloading to turning back around, facing the threat, and then canting out. So that was kind of just kind of a quick thing on that. So the reason why I did it, I got to feel maybe I haven't drilled it enough recently for myself.
But I think you bring up a good point. Is in your mind is I don't want to break my mags. I don't want to drop them on the new floor. I don't want to do that. And did that come into play? I'd have to say yes, because you and I had spoken about, well, hey, why do you think you did it? Because that's important. If you don't know why you did it, then how am I going to fix it? So I think those things certainly did play into a lot of things. You had all those other factors playing into it. But like you said, real good recognition is, if it took me that long with a paper target that wasn't going to move, is to reload, turn around, acquire the target, and engage again. If that threat had moved, how much longer would it have taken you?
Right.
Especially if that was, like we said, obviously it's a serious threat if we're using our lethal force response. So I think it was a great training thing. And as you mentioned, it's certainly the reason we should video ourselves and our training.
Yeah, and I think with any of these things that we're talking about today, me and you can maybe do a little bit more in-depth education on pros and cons to doing all the different situations. So let's go to the next one. It wasn't on it wasn't on that particular video, but one of the first videos I did recording myself, I came out from behind the corner to a squared up isosceles stance, and probably 70% of my body was exposed. And that jumped right out at me, like, why am I doing that? And I know competition shooters, and I know a lot of other people, that's the stance they always say to shoot from. But if I'm taking cover concealment, I want to keep as much behind cover concealment as I can. And that's why I redid it, trying to cant out to the side. And we've done videos on this in the past about trying to protect as much as I can, as opposed to hopping out and expose my body. So that's not on that video, but we can discuss it at another time. One of the other points I want to brought up, and I know somebody's going to catch on to it if they really watch the video, is my mag changes. So I have a cert gun here and I have a spare mag. And one of the things I was doing on the mag changes, as I was shooting here, I was using my support hand to strip the magazine out, and then taking my new mag and loading it in and racking the slide. So we've talked about this during one of our previous videos on ways to do mag changes. Is, you call it the stripping method, I call it milking the cow. You're kind of milking that out. And it makes sense to me. So, people are going to ask, well, why didn't you just, push the mag release, let it drop on its own? I just didn't want it to fall on the ground. And then you're doing two things at once. So, Charlie, let's talk about that. Why is it maybe a good option to practice stripping that mag out with your support hand as you go to the next one? Take it away, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to do it because I'm got my camera, my laptop position there, unless you don't think the video is appropriate for that as far as seeing it, but I'll do it up here in front of me.
That's fine.
The typical drop the mag works well when this is a cert gun, same as Jeff has, a training weapon, is there's no expansion because of the heat of the functioning of the firearm. And we've all at least seen, if not had at the range, where you go to drop the mag and it doesn't come out. And just like Jeff and I were talking about with the concealment in the barricade or the barrier or the cover that drill he was doing initially, is it's all situationally dependent. If it falls out, it's great. And we can go on with our business loading. If it doesn't fall out, then we have to, and generally, when we practice these things and talk about it, there's such a debate in the community of this works well for me, and that's fine. And that's what Jeff and I always teach, is whatever works for you, do it. I mean, we're all unique individuals, but we got to consider tactically what's going on. Why have I run dry? What is the threat doing? So if she has, I'm going to strip the mag, get my magazine out of wherever I keep my additional magazine, my additional ammunition source, and reload it. He's already, what's the length of time that takes him when he's practiced? And this is what he's doing, which I certainly commend him for, is practicing. Can we sacrifice the time that it takes to go, oh no, it didn't drop, and then have something maybe in our hand or our hand down toward our magazine source? Or can we just program in, like Jeff has done, is I'm going to strip it no matter what? And how much time am I really losing if I get really that? So I think the question is certainly valid, and it's a good question. He's programmed it in there for that example of, I'm going to strip it. I am going to go to my next magazine source no matter what, whether it falls or not, because he's taken out the chance that it doesn't fall for a variety of different reasons, expansion being one of them. And now he comes up and he's got something else in his hand. And I know he's always practiced different things, but to me, it's time. How much time is this threat going to allow me to make up my then mistakes because I didn't strip it? So I don't think it was a mistake, Jeff, what you had programmed in your drill, especially some of the tactical things you and I have done together, is you're getting used to doing that because you're visualizing a threat. And could it have been like you just now in our video, I didn't want to drop my mag. You got a new floor and things, and you don't want to break their mags. And that's stuff we have to program too, is a lot of people don't like to do it at the range when you're training. But if we're training for real life situations, we got to take those things into consideration. And I'm not telling you to go out and break your equipment by any means, but we certainly have. So I commend you, one, for doing this video and training and watching yourself, and two, programming that in that, I know you and I had spoke about in the past.
Yeah, I don't consider it a mistake. So, but somebody's going to say, well, why are you doing that? Because it's quicker if I drop the mag with my shooting hand as I'm feeding back to this other hand. to just, I'm going to do it on the table here so it doesn't go too far. So when I drop it, now I can just instantly insert that in. Like you said, though, the challenge is, and on my everyday carry, the magazine rests up against the heel of my hand. So even if I get my hand out of the way and I shake it, it doesn't fall that easily. I almost have to strip it out every single time. So why not just develop that habit every single time? This hand's coming back anyhow to go to my next mag. So why not use that to strip at that time? Yep, and then I can load the next in. So
I think that's
so
great.
if somebody caught that on video, I don't consider that a mistake. That's the way I trained, and I felt I was doing okay with that.
Sorry, I think it's an option because you're also going to have, hey, if I have a flashlight in my hand, I can't do that. Well, so then you got to learn another methodology. So we got to make sure we take everything under consideration. So
yeah, and after you said that to me, I actually tried that. So if I have my flashlight in my hand, which is my thumb working flashlight, right,
okay,
and I need to strip, I still have my thumb and my index finger to be able to strip that out. So, and you said, well, what happens if you're calling the police? Well, to be honest, if I'm in the middle of a threat situation and I have to defend myself, I'm not calling the police at that time.
I think the other one we brought up is, say you're at a Walmart, heaven forbid, there has been shootings at Walmarts, and you go to protect your family. Now I'm pulling them behind me. Then I don't think you're going to be able to pick up most of our family members and strip them out. So it's just, we've got to train for concepts and principles for the eventualities, because I don't know what the eventualities, nor does Jeff, that we can face. And so when one person's wrong in this example, or why is Jeff's right. So that's what makes training such a vitally important thing, because we don't know what the threat's going to be. So again, we only talked about that, I think, this morning or last night. You've already practiced it. So real good.
Yep. So let me give you one more thought on that. If I am shooting and I go to drop that mag and it starts to go and it's out before I actually get my hand there, that's fine too. So I don't even have to worry about stripping it, but I'm training that if for some reason I can't get it out, that hand's able to pull that mag out and go to my spare mag a little bit quicker.
And like you said, you're really good, man. And it doesn't affect your grip, like you said, your EDC does, because if you got to open your grip to take the mag out, then I've got to reassess my grip. There's so many things and factors, that we've got to consider and do the very best we can with, talking about it and discussing it and come up with the best we can. So.
All right, let's go to the third thing, which is actually I called it second mistake on there, is I came out from concealment and I started to reload when I was moving. Is that wrong? No, maybe I'm taking shots, it's going through the wall or whatever that I'm kind of concealed behind, and I got to get out of that situation. That was just my drill. I just wanted to be behind concealment while I was reloading and then step out from there. So I don't think it was wrong that I was moving and reloading, but for the drill I was doing, I kind of felt that wasn't the drill I wanted. I wanted to be behind concealment. I wanted to do that reload, and then I wanted to pop out and shoot the 4 shots while moving, which brings me to my last tip here, Charlie, our last discussion. Shooting when moving. This can go either way, and we're going to have a respectful little discussion on this, because I think it's needed to know how to do, but it maybe not be the best option for things. So give me your thoughts in it and a quick little summary.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's first we got to learn how to, I talked about this recently, is shooting and moving is very difficult. Shooting and moving accurately is even more difficult. Shooting and moving accurately while you're under the stresses of a real environment, depending on. So when we all do these shooting and moving, you were kind enough to put out a clip from YouTube, I believe. There was no obstructions anywhere. And it was all linear movement, which we certainly have to start with. We got what they call, crawl, walk, and run. I think when we're going to talk about movement, first this whole thing is about situationally dependent encounters. Is once I recognize there's a threat, the first thing I've got to do is figure out how to get my weapon system from concealment. So if you haven't practiced that, getting to shooting and moving is far too far in the future. Can I move offline while acquiring my weapon system? I'll come up a little bit and then engaging. So moving and acquiring your weapon, I think, are good skills. Have we got to the level where we can move, acquire our weapon, and continue to move and put rounds on the threat? I'm not sure that that's the ideal situation. Does it mean it's bad? No. I mean, moving linearly, when we talk about pressing the threat in law enforcement and military language, I don't know if that's pertinent to civilian things. If the threat's down, why would you be pressing the threat? So I think we're talking about lateral or angular movement. My first thing I would recommend practicing is, not that we don't train folks at the range, live fire, to move and shoot, is can we move once we in our mind, like you said, it's very, your drill was a perfect example. In your mind, you're worried about dropping things, which is certainly important. But in our mind there's a threat. I see the threat now, it's turned into a lethal force response. Is, can I move while this threat is still moving towards me in an aggressive, potentially deadly manner, acquire my firearm from its concealment and put rounds onto the threat while continuing to move, depending on where we are. So, like we said, it's environmentally dependent. Am I in confined space? Am I bumping off of cars? Is there things on the ground? Do I move to my right because that's to do and trip over a curb? And you mentioned it in our little discussion this morning, is most people, when they're presented with a threat, including in that little video clip you said, posted, is they tend to back straight up, and then, because it's just human nature.
You're talking about the video clip of the guy attacking the girl in drills with a knife.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Sorry. Jeff posted it. If you haven't seen it, you guys got to get to it. So
I could put a link in the description to that one as well.
Yeah, because it's a good thing I'm not shooting and moving, and again, they're vitally important. But my big thing is kind of, we got to crawl before we walk and run. Is I would learn how to first, let's stand still and figure out how to quickly get on target with our weapon system from concealment. Second, take that skill and let offline laterally, acquiring it, get on target. And then third, let's get it so we can move angularly, acquire it, get on target. And then let's take it to the run stage. In my opinion, book is, can we do all that and shoot and continue to move in a appropriate direction? So I think we're there. I just think we need to do it in stages. So that's kind of my 10 cents worth.
Yeah, and I'm going to totally agree with that. Definitely, when you are standstill and you are firing, you're going to be more accurate. I mean, who's not? You got your base, you got everything. You can somewhat acquire your sights. Even if you're doing point shooting, it's still, the fundamentals are going to be there for you to get on target. However, and I kind of talked to you about this earlier, if somebody is charging at me with a weapon or a baseball bat or a knife or whatever, and I need to get off that straight line attack and I cut to the side, you watch that video, and as much as I agree that you got to go side to side and you can't go straight back, everybody's natural reaction is to back straight up. You're coming from straight ahead, I'm going to naturally go straight back because I want to try to create distance. But think about that. I am never going to back up faster than you are coming forward. So I need to change it. I need to get off to the side, whether I'm going to the right or to the left, whichever direction, maybe a slight angle forward, which is now going to force that attacker to have to redirect. But the challenge that I had with that video was understanding if somebody's coming at me with a knife and I'm trying to move to the side and draw my weapon out, I am focused on drawing the weapon out. That person is going to bridge that gap in a second to a second and a half. If I'm only focused on getting to my weapon, I might be putting myself in a bad position. I think you posted a comment on Facebook about it, is maybe that's not the time to try to draw your weapon. Maybe at that time you have to go to hands-on. You have to know some kind of skills to especially if you're wide out in the open. What are you going to do? You can't just keep running away from this person. At some point, you're going to have to engage. If you are fast with your draw, hey, power to you. But under pressure, by the time you process what's going on, you're going to have to move a little bit. And that might mean that if the attack's coming kind of from this angle, I may be cutting to the side. I may be shooting while I'm cutting that angle, which ultimately I think the way you just did the steps, I think that'd kind of be step 3 or step 4, is learning to cut the angle as I'm shooting. Are you ever going to run and shoot? Probably not. And I wouldn't recommend it because you're just going to be all over the place. Bad guys do it all the time. Doesn't mean they hit anything.
That's why they're called bad guys. Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I wrote down while you were talking, time and distance really changes our response. Or, one of my former teachers used to say, what do we do in response to the thing you just hit on, is no, we'll say shooting or lethal force response is justified, if you will, but you have no time to shoot or no room to shoot. So, I know we do have lots of folks, I've heard in the community of, well, if he's got a knife, I just shoot him. Well, that's fine and well, you're justified, but can you get to it? And does he understand that you really can't get to it that fast? And will they allow you the time? Same with the reload, same with everything else. We have to take in that quote unquote totality of the circumstances. And even though, or even that, as you mentioned, using lethal force for somebody trying to kill you or attack you with a knife is certainly valid. Can we do it all? Can we do it all with these stressors that are coming at us? That's why we continue to preach and provide training off the live fire range. I've kind of come up with this idea and shared it with Jeff and some of my other colleagues and friends, and my wife, Rachel, especially, is to me, the range is invaluable, if you will. It teaches us the functioning of a tool. But can we function with our tool in the environments of which Jeff and I have been talking about? To me, they're two different things. Jeff knows how to reload. He knows how to clear malfunctions. But can he do it moving with somebody really trying to kill him or someone that he loves or others? That's when we talk about being tactical. And that's why we keep inviting everybody to come and train with us in our quote unquote force on force and simunitions, like Jeff's training in his basement, and even just getting a cert gun or a training weapon, learning those movements. Then and only then can you apply it safely on the live fire range. And there's some things we just never can do on the live fire range for obvious reasons.
All right, Charlie, as we wrap up, let's talk about this kind of skills and drills training that we're talking about doing here. Right. The value of doing dry fire practice is more than just learning your trigger control. Whether you're learning dry fire with a cert gun, an empty firearm, a plastic gun, Nerf gun, whatever it might be, you can practice things without being at the range. And I know your thoughts on this with me. We both agree that that's where you're going to learn most of your skills. Would you agree?
100%. You mentioned the sport or the art of boxing, the sweet science, if you will, is they have something there. It's the same thing. It's the same thing in any psychomotor skill, sport, art, whatever, is shadow boxing. They even call it shadow boxing. There's nothing else there. Is when I teach, for example, when I teach cops to do active shooter response and threshold management, I wrote that down in my notes too when we were talking, that's kind of what Jeff was doing. If that was a wall and not his furnace, that would have been a corner of the door or a leading edge. There's a leading edge and angles to all this thing. And we're going to do a class, I think, next year on that, guys. That's what the key is. You can practice moving up to there, moving back behind cover like Jeff was doing, or concealment, moving to the other side. Say it was a vehicle and you were protecting yourself behind your car, moving to one side, moving to the other. And I don't need anything in my hands. I can use this if I want. It's just learning to move. Once I put, and I found this down training the law enforcement folks, is once I put something in their hand, they tend to focus on that and forget their footwork. And I think you found that in the martial art too, is to a long answer to your short question is, look, it's almost invaluable to not do things without, I'm going to say, punching paper at the range. That's valuable. Not doing stuff outside of that, like Jeff's doing in his basement, you're not getting the totality of the picture of training for what we're training for. And in this case, we're talking about being safe when faced with a life-threatening situation for ourselves or our family. So spot on key, Jeff, spot on.
So just kind of wrapping it up, I think you just nailed it right on the head. There's not a set answer for every situation. It all depends on the totality of the situation. What's happening? Where are you able to go? Do you have family you have to protect? Are you able to get to your weapon in time? We're in the middle of winter up here. We have heavy coats on. How quick can I get to that weapon if somebody's charging at me? So when we look at the totality of the situation, that's going to help determine what am I capable of doing. And if I don't have options, I may be stuck with the only option I know, which might not be the right option for that situation. So we have to try to put ourselves into these different situations and do different training. Like I said about the drill that I did, it's not that moving and reloading was wrong. It's just not what I was practicing that day. So, we could do different things in that sense. So, Charlie, I think we hit a couple good points here. I really appreciate your time. I think we need to take this and take some of these things and go through. Okay, so we talked about why it might not be tactically the best answer, but let's go through what should we be doing. And I think we can do a couple of videos on that and help people understand the pros and cons to what we are doing a little bit more. And I think that'll help educate people a little bit. So, all right, Charlie, any last words?
No, Jeff, like I said, I appreciate it. Guys, 2024, Jeff and I are going to put out some content and have some training things in person. I'm going to give him a plug. He's got a seminar coming up in January. January, kicking off the new year right on edge weapons and self-defense. He just hit the points. You know, we can all be great shooters. We can all be great folks with our weapons. Sometimes we don't have our weapon with us. You're in a zone where you can't have it. You left it at home. Or sometimes we can't get to it. So, guys, if you're up there, do yourselves a favor and get to that class. And then I'll see you guys up north in 2024. And we're just going to keep this going. We're also working on some online content. So, guys, keep checking my website, Jeff's website, Beyond the Range, and keep training, guys. That's what it's about. Stay safe. I appreciate it, Jeff.
All right, Charlie, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.
You too, sir. Have a good day.